QR code is a solitaire print and play game. You have an incomplete QR code, some of the cells are blank, and you will be trying to recover the code by manually filling the right cells using a pen. Essentially, it's a logical puzzle to find out which cells need to be filled. But for each clue you request, you must fill in one cell, sometimes not knowing any cells which need to be filled. And on top of that, you may encounter events which additionally destroy parts of the code. Fortunately, QR codes have some built-in error correction, so that some incorrectly filled cells do not destroy the code right away. A few months ago, researchers made a sensational discovery in Midrahi near Cairo. They found several stone slabs densely inscribed with hieroglyphics. According to initial investigations, the find could date back to the 27th century BC. Initially, the ancient underground building has been discovered by some students which examined the vegetation near Cairo using satellite images. The underground building's stone formation is reminiscent of a QR code. This is why it became known as the QR code. After a serious accident, part of the underground monument collapsed and an excavator slipped several meters into the ground. The excavations have been interrupted. Researchers are now trying to investigate the underground conditions by taking measurements in boreholes around the excavation site. In addition, the hieroglyphic scripts are being analyzed. The ancient writings are by Imhotep, the most important known master builder of the time, a genius of engineering, builder of the nearby Djoser's pyramid, and a gifted healer. His spiritual heritage lays there for posterity, but you must prove to be worthy to discover it. If you move the wrong stone, the greatest treasure of the millennium will be destroyed forever. So when you print the game, you get an individual puzzle containing 2 sheets. The first one with the QR code and lots of hieroglyphs. And on the second we have the canopic jars. They have been used in the mummification process to preserve the wisteria. In this case, they are used to store hints. And at the bottom we have the test code and some paper strips with finder patterns. For setup, we have to cut them out. Make sure to cut thoroughly along the finder patterns to not destroy them. Okay, so let's see what we have. The paper strip with the largest finder pattern is for the QR code. Here we have the solution of the puzzle, so what has to be in the grid to make the QR code readable or scannable. The B's are black cells and the P's are white cells. The finder pattern completes the code, so a scanner can recognize it as a QR code. First we have to fill in the grid. Here's the pattern we have to fill in. And scanning the test code is still part of the setup. Now align the finder pattern to the lines and scan the code. It can be a bit fiddly, but if you have dry skin like I have, just use a rubber to move the paper strips. Okay, here we have it. The test code always tells you a hieroglyph which is black. In this case, it's read. Now we'll note this information. In the top left, we have the stone matrix, which contains all 16 different hieroglyphs. So we'll find the one and mark it as black, so it just gets a thick frame around it. And down below here, we have the working grid, which represents the cells of the QR code grid. We also find the read. Each hieroglyph can be found 3 times, exactly 3 times on the working grid. There you get a frame as well. And then the last thing we have to do for setup is to choose a difficulty, easy, medium, or hard. Let's say for this gameplay we play on medium. On each turn you will fill a cell of the QR code grid, scan a hint, and then look for logical conclusions. You will use the finder pattern like you did when scanning the test code. There are 16 canonic jars, 16 QR codes, and 4 of them are not hints but events. We'll take a look at them later. Some of the hints are useful, some are not as useful. But before we scan, we always have to fill a cell. So let's do so. Fortunately, we already know 3 cells which have to be black anyway, so we just choose one of them. Let's take this in the top left module. Like this. Okay, so now we are actually ready to scan our first hint. So at the beginning we don't know anything, so we just choose any hint. Let's take the jackal headed here. Adjust the finder pattern and scan. Can be a bit fiddly. Oh, come on. Here we have it. And it's actually an event right from the start. Okay, why not? The message is part of a passage collapses. Reconsider your calculations. So the text is actually just a flavor text, but the E in brackets says it's an event. Note the kind of hint in this case. It's E in the top left corner, so we can remember what kind of hint it was and that we've already scanned it. Events partly destroy the QR code. To destroy the code means fill cells, of course, and how many cells you need to fill depends on the difficulty level. On easy mode you have to fill 2 cells, in hard mode 8 cells, and when you encounter the second event you lose immediately. And medium, what we are actually going to play, you have to fill a number of cells equal to the number of canonic jars you've already opened, but at least 2 cells. In our case we have just opened 1 canonic jar, but so we have to fill 2 cells. Fortunately, we have still 2 black cells we know of. Okay, so let's fill these 2. If we wouldn't have discovered an event, but a hint, there might be something now we can deduce using our working grid or the stone matrix. Now we aren't much smarter than before, but that was already the first round. And you go on like this. So fill a cell, scan a code, and see what you can get information out of this until you finally find out how the whole grid should look like. At that point, when you know the solution, you just fill in all the cells in the QR code grid that should be black in your opinion, and finally scan the code. And if you're able to read the code, you win. So these are the basic rules. I'm going to explain the rest of the rules while actually playing. Okay, so let's start the second turn. At first, we again have to fill a cell. Unfortunately, there is no cell anymore, of which we know it was black. So we start to fill in some module. Try to keep your potentially incorrect fill cells within one module, so the QR code remains readable. We want to avoid another event. All canonic jars of the same kind share a feature. For example, all events could have jackal heads, or this wave pattern could be in the same row or column. Let's take this monkey head and straight line pattern. Doesn't have anything in common. And the message is, lag in 3x3 squares contain 4 black cells. We'll see in a minute what that means. First, we have to write down the N in the corner. N stands for numeric hint. So in this case, lag is a numeric hieroglyph of rank 4. Oops, sorry. Okay, so what is a numeric hieroglyph? Here is an example from the rules. The dead pharaoh is a numeric hieroglyph of rank 6. Like all hieroglyphs, it can be found 3 times in the grid. Here it is located in the bottom right corner. The yellow mark shows 3x3 square. So rank 6 means there are exactly 6 black cells in the square. We already know 2 of them from the outer edge, and 3 white cells. So there are 4 cells left, and these have to be black to get to 6 black squares. All numeric hieroglyphs have to be in the same row or column. Other hieroglyphs must form a continuous group. Let me show you what it looked like in my last game. We have already a black hieroglyph. There are actually 4 of them. And they're all connected, adjacent, and form this Tetris-like shape. These are the white hieroglyphs. They are all connected and form an L. The question marks are unknown hieroglyphs. And what that means is, if we look at the hand, here is one black and one white. So you just don't know if it's black or if it's white, and it can be both. And here we have the numeric hieroglyphs in a column in the 6er. So we have 4 different types of 4 hieroglyphs each, and each form a continuous group of any shape. Only the numeric hieroglyphs have to be a row or column. But again, it could always be any shape, only the numeric hieroglyphs have to be row or column. All others must only be connected, form a continuous group. Okay, so let's write our new information down. We have a 4 here. So let's find all 3 legs. This is the square around it. 4 have to be black, and there are already 2 from the edge. Gray boxes are the edge around the grid. Here we have 3 blacks, some whites, and blacks again, just like you can see in the working grid. There's very little we know so far, so there's nothing to deduce now. Okay, so let's look what we want to scan next. No event for sure, but the numeric aren't as wealthy as well. We would like to discover a hint for the stone matrix. That's stone matrix and M hint. Let's look if we can find one. So it should not be similar to both of them. This one? No, it's in the same row. Let's take this below here. Oh, it's the same pattern as this one. Okay, what's about this? It's a zigzag pattern we don't have yet. And another hat. Okay. But before we are allowed to scan, we have to fill a cell, of course. We had already started filling this module, not knowing if the cells should be black or white, so we fill another cell. By the way, it doesn't matter which module you choose to fill in arbitrary cells, just keep your arrows in one module to keep the QR code scannable. Great, we actually found a stone matrix hint. It says all cells marked with favor O are black. So we mark it in the stone matrix. And because those two have to be connected, they are both black within the same group. Either this or this one has to be black too. We just don't know yet. Bit by bit our working grid gets filled. The game accelerates at some point. And this is the end of turn number 3 and the end of this video. If you want to see the rest of the playthrough, just hop on to the next one.